All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our crash course. My name's Casey Christy, and I'm one of the co-developers of ATGenius. So today we'd like to go through some of the basics of our course and how to use our system. So I often start off with saying what can show your value, improve patient care, help you add staff, potentially increase your budget, and potentially even save your career. And of course, the answer is documentation. We've had some athletic trainers use documentation to help add a second athletic trainer or additional staff to their school, and also to even show their value in the types of services that they're providing and how much money they're saving parents with co-pays and treatments provided at school versus going to a physical therapy clinic for those same treatments. A few words about us. I've been working at the secondary school setting for a long time, since the early 90s. I also teach adjunct athletic training courses and serve as a preceptor. I've been president of our state society, and I have a master's degree in public relations and a doctorate in athletic training from Temple University. And our co-developer, Brandon, has been doing websites and creating websites for a long time. He's done some athletic training specific things, working with NATA District 2 and EATA in our neck of the woods, and has a vast amount of experience developing web pages for a variety of applications. So we say it all started with a soap note, and that's how ATGenius began. We just wanted to create a way to do soap notes, and we've evolved quite substantially since that, with allowing you to document your concussion evaluation and return to play protocol. Our system can send text messages one way to athletes and parents to inform them or stay in contact with them. We have a variety of reports, a way to track equipment that you're loaning out, whether it's crutches, coolers, and the like. We have the ability to do patient-reported outcome measures. A new feature is an appointment calendar, which I'll talk a little bit about. And we recently upgraded autofill, which I'll talk to you about too, which can help you save substantial time when documenting injuries. We have ATGenius Academy, which is really our learning center to get some information on getting started, at least with our system. Of course, we're always available to you by email if you have any questions, but I would just recommend that if you're new to our system, to take a look at some of these resources on ATGenius Academy with some videos and other documents to help you make the most of the system. A couple other things we're involved with is we started a CEU program with ATGenius. It's called Build Your Genius. We've had a couple CEU events, and we'll have some in the future. And the way we work these is that they're online via Zoom. There is no charge for them, but we have asked for a small donation for a charity. Each ATGenius CEU event is to benefit a specific charity. So we ask for a small $10 donation. If you're able, it's optional when you attend these. We did one on evidence-based ankle injuries for the Dan Melleby Foundation to help with suicide awareness and teacher scholarships. And we did one most recently for the Adam Talaferro Foundation, and that is a group that helps those who have sustained catastrophic spinal injuries and providing resources and financial help to those individuals. So look for a CEU event, Build Your Genius, in the future, and you do not have to be an ATGenius subscriber to attend. I did some doctoral research on EMR systems when I was working on my degree at Temple University, and some of the things we found out was that a lot of athletic trainers are still using paper documentation, and some athletic trainers are even double documenting, meaning they're using paper and EMR, and we do not recommend that you double document. There's a lot of research that says that that actually is resulting in more errors, more inefficiency for the clinician, inconsistent records, and potentially confidentiality breaches with information. So we recommend if you go electronic to go fully electronic, and we think that will make your life a lot easier. Some other best practices you can do is sending proms when practical to monitor patient progress. And we've made that very easy for you to do, to send that via text message with self-scoring proms in our system. And also to check your practice act to see what you need to be doing at a minimum when you document. All of these things tie into what we call our documentation best practices. One of the things that we recently did to help athletic trainers manage the chaos after school with managing multiple patients is that you can set up a calendar in which the patients can schedule appointment times to come see you. I recommend that at my high school, for example, we schedule appointments for anyone who is doing rehab or treatment that is not able to participate in their sport. For the kids that are just coming in to get a quick treatment or taping before practice, we don't worry about scheduling appointments for those kids. But for those that are actually coming in for rehab or treatment, we set up time slots, and that way we can kind of control the flow a little bit better. So this is a way for athletes to easily go in, sign in, set up their appointment time to come see you, and you can set up a calendar. And all of this is within your account settings. So you would go to account appointment calendar and set up when you would take appointments, and you could take up to 3 patients per time slot, and they're set at every 15 minutes. So however you wanted to manage that. As far as why we need to document, these are the main reasons, of course, to track patient progress and monitor their care. And moving down from there, it is certainly our professional responsibility with the legal implications. So we recommend, regardless of what you use or your system, that you have a good documentation approach to your practice of athletic training to help protect yourself legally. Also, documentation can help you advocate for yourself, showing the monetary value and value of your services, and also demonstrate your patient volume. Again, if you're trying to get more staff, more budget, or simply show parents and administrators the value of your services, you can use documentation to do that. So this is an article from the Journal of Athletic Training, identifying what are the main barriers to documentation. And we take this into consideration when developing and refining ATGenius. We realize that athletic trainers are outnumbered rather, and overwhelmed often with the amount of patients that we need to handle. And documentation, unfortunately, we don't always have the time to do that. So one of our missions with ATGenius is try to help you document properly and also save time and do it in a quick, efficient manner. As far as documenting the right way, one of our resources on ATGenius, we have provided documentation guidelines that you can take a look at when you have time, in terms of trying to do things the proper way, professionally, within best practices, but within a reasonable manner that you can do despite being overwhelmed with lots of patients. One of the main areas that I think is the most important with ATGenius is our autofill feature, which we just updated. So you can create in advance SOAP evaluation findings for your common injuries, whether that's an ankle sprain, quad strain, hamstring injury, shin splints. You can create these all ready to go, because let's face it, most of the time when we're seeing these injuries, we're finding similar physical exam findings. So you can create these in advance in your account settings under autofill and have those ready to be inserted. You can, for example, for an ankle sprain, you could type in the subjective area inverted ankle, and your objective, your palpation or tender to palpation of the ATFL, pain with passive inversion, lateral swelling, etc., your assessment, and then your plan. Your plan, for example, could be modalities as indicated, begin therapeutic exercises as tolerated, which could apply to a lot of injuries. So you can drop those all in with a single click and edit as needed. So even though you drop it in, it can still be changed and modified specific to that patient, but it drops in the information and would significantly speed up your documentation. You just have to spend a little time in advance to create these autofill information ready to go. As far as things you don't want to miss, make sure when you do a SOAP note that you sign and lock it. You don't need to sign and lock it right away. Sometimes I understand that you're evaluating an injury and maybe you want to reevaluate it the next day before deciding on a diagnosis. And, that's a very common practice. So you would save it for later, so you don't lose your information, but ultimately you need to sign and lock it. And once you do so, you'll have the More tab that will provide more information on the right here. All these things and many others become available to you once you sign and lock the record through the More tab. So you can add a progress note, you can add a treatment, you can document your communication, your physician referral, you can even create a rehab card. But again, the record must be signed and locked for you to go ahead and do those things. Another new feature we added recently is when you do sign and lock a record, you can set up ATGenius to send a text, an email, or both to the coach, to a parent, that you have evaluated their injury. It's going to give the basics of their injury evaluation, and you can insert any comments as well when they need to see you again, or a comment such as no need to see a doctor, follow up with athletic trainer tomorrow at 3 p.m. Put anything in there, and then this will be received by the parent and or coach via text. Again, they can't respond to it, but there is an email link. Your email automatically appears in the text message if they want to respond to you that way. So this is an example of the email that will come when you sign and lock that SOAP that, Miranda was evaluated today by such and such athletic trainer, your credentials. It's going to say just the basics, the body area, the injury type, their status as how you indicated in the SOAP note, and then any comments, and again, an email link to respond to you. And a text message also comes as well, if you would like, with the basic injury information, and again, a email link to respond back to you if the parent so desires. Another thing we can do, this is separate from the text messages I just mentioned. You can send patient messages, again, one way from within ATGenius via text or email. Maybe it's a reminder when to see you again, whatever you need to use it for. So you can go to the patient's profile, click on options, and then add message, and then you can send that message immediately or have it scheduled to send later. One of the things that's been emphasized to us as a profession is to use more patient-reported outcome measures. The problem is most of the PROMs out there are too bulky to score and perhaps too long, or perhaps don't apply to a typical high school or collegiate or active athlete. For example, the DASH asks about carrying a briefcase and doing gardening and things like that, where it's not really appropriate for a 17-year-old or a 20-year-old who is an athlete. So we've developed our own PROMs in our system that self-score. So you can send this to your patient via text message, and they will complete that. And it's a great way to connect with your patient on how they are truly doing, because sometimes as we are busy, we don't have time to ask detailed questions on how they feel sitting in class, getting up and down out of a chair, getting in and out of a car, going up and down steps. So all these things are asked on the patient questionnaire. And I would recommend that you try to use those with injuries that are more substantial to track them. And also it can demonstrate your treatment effectiveness if you needed to do so to stakeholders or school administration of how you brought someone from a 51% score, in this case, to a 95% score through your treatment. These are just examples of some questions that you would see. Again, this can be sent via text message to the patient. No need to print out prompts or send them to a website. We have them all in our system, and this is some of the functional and activities of daily living questions that they would be asked. But it does go on to ask some sports questions and also some questions about how their injury is improving or not improving since their last visit, things along those lines. And again, we use some of these studies that indicate why athletic trainers are not using proms and try to design our system to help overcome some of these barriers. A common question we get is how to add athletes to the system. So one of the ways you can do that is when they come into your facility, you can have, for example, a laminated half sheet of paper that you hand to them that has instructions to create their account. That's how I handle it at my high school, because if I have a brand new athlete, it buys me 10 minutes to do something else with a bunch of different people in there that are getting treatment or therapy, and they can create their account on the spot on their phone. You can also mass import them through a Excel file, which we can help you do. Or if you wanted to do it yourself, that is possible. And I went out of order here. The patients themselves, they can do it, as I mentioned, or you can add them as well. But we suggest that you meet with your teams as the best approach. You could meet with your teams or send out an email with instructions on how to create their account before the season. That would be the best way to do it. If you import them, sometimes that does not allow you to use every aspect of ATGenius with that patient without doing more work. So we recommend that the patient creates their account themselves with instructions provided by you. Again, we have a template on ATGenius Academy to help you do that. Here is the example. So at my high school, I have this very same thing, a half sheet of paper laminated. We probably have 4 or 5 of them floating around. So when we have a new athlete, we hand them this. You can just simply change the red items here or customize this how you want and have the athlete do it themselves. We also can handle preseason documents. So for example, if you need your athletes to fill out parent permission forms to be downloaded and completed by a parent and re-uploaded, or school insurance information, or physicals and things like that, you can upload all these items into our preseason documents section, and then the athlete can log in, download whatever they need, or the parent can do it, download whatever they need, have it completed, and then re-upload. Or if there are certain things that need to be electronically signed by the parent, for example, in New Jersey, where I work, all the parents need to sign off on a concussion information sheet. So you could put something like that up and they could electronically sign that or acknowledge that they've read it. We have a lot of reports available to you. The most common one is a coach's report that you can send, and this can be texted or emailed. We have injury statistics reports, again, that I would recommend you do at the end of your season or the end of the school year, or both, to show all the treatments that you provided, and you can assign a dollar value to all of those treatments as well. Some of our groups need to track physician referrals or concussion baseline tests that have been performed or treatment statistics. So all of this is available to you in reports. Treatment sign-in is a commonly asked question, and we do provide treatment sign-in that we hope is very painless for you. Under account options, you would go to treatment sign-in, and you can modify what treatments appear to the athletes when they sign in. We have, of course, a default list that the system comes with, but if you needed to, you can modify this. For example, if you're doing cupping and cupping is not part of our default list, you can easily add that in there, as well as a dollar treatment value assigned, so that when you do your treatment statistics, it'll add all these values up. Our values that are in the default list are based on common fees for physical therapy services and Medicare. So if it's different in your area, you can certainly modify those, but we put those in there as a starting point for you. You can download a QR code from within our system, and I would recommend you put that up on your wall in a few different places, and the athletes can scan that QR code and sign in very easily from there. You'll need to determine a school code. For example, I work at Eastern High School and we are the Vikings. So Vikings is our school code to sign in. So within your account settings, you would set your school code. And then when the athlete signs in for treatment, they would enter their name, their date of birth, and their school code. That's all they need. And then they would go in and check off their treatments that they received that day. We don't require too much information as far as getting started with an account, but we do try to keep it basic. I would recommend that you, if you're able, if your school is okay with it, to collect the student's cell phone number so that you can send messages to them. Again, it's coming from within the system. We understand that schools don't want personnel personally texting students using things like GroupMe and other things like that. So this is, again, from a system, a third-party system, and the students cannot respond back to you. So a lot of our athletic trainers use that to communicate with their patients. Here is the QR code. Again, this is available in account settings. So this is a modifiable PDF. So we have Bulldogs as a sample school name. You can download this PDF, change the Bulldogs to whatever you want your school code to be that you set in account settings, and then print these out. And again, these are what the athletes scan with their phone to sign in. We often get questions about adding team members, and by team members, we don't mean members of a sports team. We mean team members that will be working with you as additional athletic trainers, maybe the school nurse, athletic training students, if you're a preceptor, your school doctor, or perhaps even your athletic director. So as far as pricing with our system, what counts as a team member is any medical professional that will have access to enter or edit medical records as the ones I mentioned. If you have your athletic director just want to see records but not give the person the ability to modify them, you can provide read-only access to your athletic director, for example, and they would not count as a team member for pricing. Neither do coaches. You can provide coaches access to portal information, meaning the athlete's emergency contact, school insurance, things like that. They can have access to that, and coaches don't count as users, again, because they're not modifying any medical records. They're just viewing information. As far as handling multiple schools, if you are in this situation, we recommend something called a regional manager account. This way, one point person with a group of schools can control which athletic trainers have access to which schools. Say you have an athletic trainer that's floating between 3 different schools, they could have access to those 3 schools using just a single login. So for example, that athletic trainer logs in, and then those 3 schools will be presented to him or her, and he or she will select which school they want to access, and they can switch schools on the fly without logging out, which is the nice thing too. And the regional manager, the person in charge, can have access to all schools if needed. Our system does allow you to evaluate concussions with a SCAT type evaluation. Also, you can document your return to play protocol. So here's an example. You would have drop downs to select their activity, and these activities are able to be modified in account. So for example, at my high school, we use stationary bike for 10 minutes as our step 2, and perhaps you do something different. You can modify any of these activities for your drop down, but each return to play protocol needs to be signed individually. Sometimes athletic trainers forget to sign these. It would be as if you were writing this on a piece of paper and you wrote today's date and what step they did. You would initial that or sign it along that line. The same thing here with concussions having so much liability. We want you to sign and lock each step for documenting your return to play protocol. We've gotten requests too for documenting return to learn. So you can, we have a starting point here with 4 basic steps. Again, this is able to be modified or customized to your specific style or approach, but you can certainly document your return to learn. Also, you can send concussion symptom checklists, one of my favorite features of ATGenius, to patients who have a concussion. Let's say you've done your initial evaluation that's documented in our system. You can then send symptom checklists on the subsequent days via text message where the athlete would fill that out. The nice thing too is if they're at home because of their concussion, you can stay connected with them and have them fill out a symptom checklist while at home until they return to school to monitor them. Here's an example of the symptom checklist that's completed by an athlete. And you can see the red checks indicate if they have the symptom, and then a score from 0 to 6, a green check if they don't, and total points that they have out of total possible points. So sometimes we use the point system as a way of encouraging the athlete. Look, you were 30, let's say this patient was 45 score, had a score of 45 2 days ago, and now they're down to 36. It's a nice way of saying, that they're feeling better and gradually resolving, their symptoms are gradually resolving. And we've used this symptom checklist also at my school to send to nurses, send to parents, send to doctors to update them on how they're feeling. Some other tips and tricks: you can add your credentials and signature in your account. So anything that you send, let's say, for example, a coach's injury report, can have at the bottom your license number, your school name, your signature with your credentials. In New Jersey, for example, our license number needs to be on anything that we document. So that's part of the reason that's in there for our New Jersey members. That is optional, but you can certainly have it in there along with your signature. We also have a shin pain questionnaire that's part of our lower leg evaluation that not everyone's aware of. It's a point system to see where they are, and we've used this. Some colleagues of mine have used a shin questionnaire that's in ATGenius to help identify those at risk for a stress fracture based on their number of points. So for example, in our shin questionnaire, if you're in the area of 16 to 18 points, you're probably at lower risk for a stress reaction or a stress fracture. But once you start getting into the 20 and beyond, you're at risk. So we've used this to help educate parents, coaches, athletes on when it's time for further evaluation for this ongoing shin pain. We also have a document in ATGenius Academy, getting the most out of ATG, that we recommend that you use for common things that may be overlooked in the system. You can create a rehab card for an athlete to follow. So you can create a list of exercises, and the athlete would log into their account and view their list of exercises and check those off as they're completed. You can also upload videos and pictures. Let's say you have an athlete with a shoulder doing the sleeper stretch. You grab a screenshot of the sleeper stretch, put it in your video library, and then you can insert that in the rehab card under the how-to heading, so that way they can be guided on or reminded on how to do it. So creating rehab cards is nice because those who are maybe going to be with you for a little while, they don't need to tap you on the shoulder every 2 minutes on what to do next. You can create a list in advance. They also can do these exercises at home with a home program. And we recommend that if you plan to use rehab cards, that you don't import your athletes, because they need a username and password for that, and we can't import usernames and passwords individually for athletes. So this is one of these functions that if you want to use a rehab card, we recommend the athlete create their own account with those instructions I showed earlier. And that way the rehab card is a lot easier to handle from your end on creating that and providing it to the athlete. Down at the bottom is an example of what the rehab card looks like. And also when the athlete completes it, it is time and date stamped. So you'll have a record of each of their visits. I've been asked to use this once in a while to help justify an MRI, for example, showing that the athlete did attempt rehab for a period of time with not showing significant improvement, and showing insurance that it's time to get the MRI. We've tried conservative. Now we need to get some imaging done. On ATGenius Academy is a coach's note. If your system is to your daily system is to provide coaches notes. I know some of us text coaches or email coaches, of course, verbally communicate. At my high school, we do all of those things, but you also send out coaches notes that look just like this on the left. And on the back is their treatment that they received. And the way I help ensure accurate treatment sign-in is that I have this list on the back perfectly match our ATGenius treatment sign-in list, and I check off what they've done, and I have them scan. They can scan this on their way out with their phone, and I say, check off what I've checked off in treatment sign-in. That way, our numbers are accurate at the end of the season or the end of the year with what they received. Athletes sometimes need to be coached on what to check off. Check off the game ready, check off whirlpool, check off therapeutic exercise. I'm constantly saying that to athletes as they sign in. And you can change these names. If you don't like the words therapeutic exercise, you can just change that to the word rehab if you think that's easier for your athletes. We also have a daily journal. This is more for documenting things that, not necessarily an injury, but maybe a situation or some preventative things that you do. It looks like a notebook. And for example, here spoke with football team about proper tackling technique to prevent catastrophic neck injuries, concussion recognition, and hydration. So in the world of athletic training, we need to prevent some things if we can and document how we've prevented them. I'll give you an example. A number of years ago, we had an athlete, a visiting athlete, that sustained a cervical spine fracture during a football scrimmage. And when the lawsuit occurred, the question was asked, what was done to prevent this injury? So if they come to the athletic trainer, what was done to prevent this injury, you can have documentation that proper tackling technique was discussed, and that way it can help cover yourself with liability that you've done these preventative measures. I've done other things in here. For example, when I spoke to the wrestling team about skin prevention issues, and if we had a skin outbreak, I've documented that we've made efforts to prevent these problems. If you've had a hole on your soccer field that you've told maintenance about 3 times and it's not fixed, and someone rolls their ankle, you've documented that you've shared that concern with maintenance and it wasn't taken care of. All right, so that is a crash course in a nutshell. I want to go to the chat. I understand there's a chat question, so if you have any questions, we could handle those now. We have a question. We use import method for our athletes. Can they modify their account identity to add a password and phone number? I would use that more
DK and
than a
Emily
true
gonna be
account
for DK.
creation.
They
So,
got they want
uh,
to
as
share their
far as a system for that,
someone downstairs working
I
with
will
them.
have to talk to our co-creator for that because I don't think we currently have a method to do that. One of the reasons is we recommend that um, athletes create their own accounts for this reason, but I might have a solution for this that they can go in and modify their account that you're asking about, but I'd have to ask our co-developer, our coder. So if you don't mind emailing us sales@atgenius.com, just as a reminder, we may have a solution for that to see if they can modify that you're asking for that, Jacqueline. For the daily journal section, it does save everything. All of our information is saved for 7 years because of most states require that information is saved. So that's part of the reason why things are not able to be deleted. We have to be careful liability wise. Let me give you a worst case scenario. An athletic trainer evaluates an injury, doesn't do it properly, and now wants to delete any evidence. And then there's there's that end for us that we need to be careful of. So we don't allow deleting of records, partly for that reason, in case records are ever called into a legal situation. But I understand that you might want to hide older entries, and again, I'll make that suggestion to um, our coder to see if we can simply hide older injuries, but still be there if needed to be accessible. Yeah, so we have some confidentiality measures that we have in place to prevent inappropriate disclosure. In other words, we never share our information with third-party groups ever. So in terms of confidentiality, that is something that we take very seriously. And um, one of the reasons why we don't have an app, many people ask us for an app, is because security is less with an app. So a web-based system is much better for security, and you can use it on your phone. You can use your Safari app or Safari on your phone. It works just fine that way. I do it all the time. So um, a quick answer to your question is that we do not um, we do not share any information with any third parties. We follow all the HIPAA and FERPA guidelines very closely, and we take that as our top priority for security. We've had a number of institutions. We're used by hospital groups and clinics that have really, put us through the test, so to speak, to make sure that all of our systems are secure.
Hey, Casey.
I would encourage you, if you haven't already, to uh, try a 60-day trial. It is the complete system, and any records that you create in your trial account, should you decide to purchase, will remain in your permanent account.
Hey, Casey.
Our technical support is free. We try to respond within 24 hours whenever possible. I think we're pretty good at that and making sure that we respond quickly to any of your questions. So the question is, do you have healthcare business associates agreements in place for us to share with our medical providers? And the answer is yes. Some of our groups require a contract. Some high schools purchase us and don't require anything along those lines. But we have a number of hospitals and clinics that have signed on with us, and we have a contract with them and also a business associate agreement, which is a separate document. So yes, we do have those in place and available. Do you guys have preset outcome measures already in the system? Yes, we have a number of preset patient-reported outcome measures. for ankle, knee, shoulder, hip, back. There's a number of them in there that are ready to go. Once you sign and lock a record, you click the More tab, and then you can text it to your patient. Before we break, I wanted just to share that I've been working as an athletic trainer for a very long time in a high school setting, over 30 years at my high school. And so a lot of documentations I've tried through the years, that was the inspiration to create our own. And also I serve as a preceptor. And if you are a preceptor, one of the nice features is that you can have your Katie athletic training student have their own login, and they could complete an evaluation, a SOAP note, and then instead of signing and locking, they would send it to the preceptor, and the preceptor can review and sign. So basically both are signing and locking. And so we found that with those who serve as preceptors as a very nice feature. As far as handling a HIPAA breach, we would follow all federal guidelines with that in terms of notifying the individuals who are involved in terms of the company that's involved. We would notify them immediately and follow all those HIPAA regulations that are outlined. So fortunately, we've never had an issue like this, knocking on wood. I can't speak from experience, but I do know there are specific things that we need to do in notifying people in a very timely manner regarding that. Question is, can you talk a little bit about, again, sharing information with collaborative care? We have 5 athletic trainers, 1 PT, nurses, strength coaches. We are preceptors. Yeah, so as a preceptor, if in case you missed it, you can set up your KD athletic training student to have their own login, and they can complete a SOAP note and then send it to you for approval. As far as your athletic trainers, you can all be looking at the same information. If you're all within the same account, you can all be sharing information and looking at information. If one particular athletic trainer does a progress note, it's going to be signed and date stamped of who did that progress note. Strength coaches, I would recommend probably just giving read-only access to information if you decided to do that. Depends on, if you can justify, you know, whose records they can evaluate. You can specify what sports they can look at if it's read-only. Okay. I wanted to try to keep this to about 45 minutes or so, which I think we did okay. And okay, a couple more questions coming in, sorry. Can you upload doctor's notes in the system? Yes. At my high school, for example, we scan them, and then you can upload that. You hit more, add media. And I will tell you that at our high school, we are completely paperless. We receive a doctor's note, we scan it into the system, we attach it to the patient's file, and then we keep a shred pile. And we have some of our students in the special education program come down periodically to take our records and shred them. Jason, I see I'm not sure what question you're asking with SC. Okay, read-only access, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were asking a question, Jason, but I see you said thank you, so hopefully I've answered it. Okay, I don't see any other questions coming in. I really appreciate everyone attending. I would like to say that whenever you think you're ready, go ahead and try a 60-day account. with us, see if it's a fit for you. And of course, reach out with any questions, and please look out for any Build Your Genius CEU events that are coming in the future that, again, you may attend regardless if you're an ATGenius member or not. All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Have a good rest of your day.